Yeah, can I continue? Yeah.
Yes, continue.
Yes, I was waiting for some of your colleagues to join. That's why. Okay, so the next one is microglia. I'm saying that it removes what? Waste substances, especially bacteria and virus from the cell. So in most situations in books, they normally say that it serves as phagocytosis. It means the same thing. They sometimes say it serves as phagocytosis. I hope you can see what I've written, phagocytosis. What this implies is that it removes waste, especially virus and bacteria, from the nervous system or from the cells. That's what it simply implies. All right. Then the next one is Schwann cells. The Schwann cells and oligodendroglia. It means the structure is the same, but I'll show you the distinction. Schwann cell and oligodendroglia. Or sometimes with the oligodendroglia in books, they sometimes write oligodendrocytes. It means the same thing. So the last one, sometimes in books, instead of them making it oligodendroglia, they make it oligodendrocytes. It means the same thing. Okay. Who can give me the distinction between, okay, no need for me to say this because you've already have it in your slide. So one thing is, the only distinction between the oligodendrocyte and Schwann cell is that when you find that structure, I'll show you the structure I'm talking about. When you find it within the peripheral nervous system, we call it Schwann cell. But in situation whereby you see the same structure within the central nervous system, that's when you see the structure within the brain or the spinal cord, we call it oligodendroglia or oligodendrocyte. So please, I hope you get it. Any questions so far when it comes to Schwann cell and oligodendroglia? All right. So one thing is, let me show you the structure that I'm talking about. That you can find it within the same cell, either the peripheral or the central nervous system. We call it the myelin sheath or the myelin cell. Where is my browser? All right. So myelin shell, myelin. So a myelin. Let me. No. Yes. So this is a typical myelin sheath. Okay. Hello, someone, please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Hello, please mute yourself. Who's the person so that I can? All right. Tracy and Joyce, please mute yourself. All right, so this is a typical myelin sheath. I hope all of you can see it. All right. So
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So one thing is this same structure, when you find it within what? Within the brain and the spinal cord, we call it oligodendrocyte. But in situations whereby you see the same structure within the peripherals, when I say your peripherals, your muscles, your limbs, that's your leg, and so on and so forth, we no longer call it oligodendrocyte, we call it Schwann cell. And what's the function? We will delve more, but currently one thing you need to know is that its function is to what? Is to speed up neural activity within the neurons. I would explain more about it later. All right. So please, any questions so far? Nice.
Please, what
Nice.
speeds up the neuron activity in the brain? Is it the myelin sheath?
Yes, when I say neural activity, it means that within, you remember I said we have two main cells. That's glia cells and neurons, right? So currently we are trying to delve into glia cells. But neurons are the ones that helps that sort of neural activity I'll be talking about. So for now, just take it like the myelin sheath speeds up neural activities. When we get to the neuron aspect, we'll delve more into it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so let me stop sharing and move on to the slides. So that's all when it comes to glia cells. These are some of the functions, these are some of the things you need to know under glia cells. And sometimes, your lecturer sometimes add this type of glia cell. We call it the radial glia. So you can add this, you can write it somewhere, it will be useful. Radial glia. It's also a type of glia cell. So it helps in the migration of neurons. During embryonic development. So this glial cell also assists, especially when the baby is in the womb. You know, when the baby is in the womb, there are a lot of build-ups, structures being formed. So within the brain also, neurons are being formed. So the radial glia assists in the formation of neurons during a period that the embryo is still developing. That's what it means. The radial glia assists in the development of of neurons during the period that the embryo is still developing. All right. So please, any questions so far? Okay, I'm moving on. Oh, what did I just do? All right. So that'll be the end of session 1. That'll be the end of session 1. So currently, I'll move on to neurons. So remember I said we have two types, glia cells and neurons. So right now, I'm moving on to neurons. So let me show you a structure of a neuron. This is a structure of a neuron, but the drawing itself is something else. So let me go to my browser and show you a typical neuron so that you appreciate it well. So this is a typical structure of a neuron. So in neurons, we can have two forms. You could see that with this, there are these things surrounding it. And that's the myelin sheath we just talked about. So I'll explain it too. But let's focus on the second one, the one which is beneath, the structure which is beneath. It is also a neuron. And neuron has different parts. So this part, let me draw, Charlie. Draw. Hey, so these parts are normally known as dendrites. They are normally referred to as dendrites. Dendrites. Okay, then this side, which is, please, I hope you are following. If you are confused anywhere, please feel free to draw my attention. Then this structure, this part is sometimes known as Axon Hillock. Okay, then this part is normally referred to as axon. Then the last part, this side, is normally referred to as terminal button. Terminal button. Let me indicate it. Terminal button. Oh, I forgot one last thing. Then inside this cell is normally referred to, it has two names. It's called cell body or soma. So essentially, these are the part of what? Of any neuron. These are the parts of any neuron. So please, any question when it comes to the drawings, any clarification? Okay, so let's try and get the function of each part of a neuron. The function of each part of a neuron. Okay, Richard, your hand is up.
Yeah, so please, what are the functions of the neurons?
The functions of a neuron.
Yes.
Yes, we will come to that. I don't want us to be in haste. I want it to be step by step so that each and every person will grasp it slowly. So currently, we are focusing on what? On the parts. Afterwards, we move on. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So please, you can lower your hand, Richard. Okay, iPhone. iPhone, what's your name?
My name is Musa Eliasu.
Mr. Eliasu, okay. Or Musa Eliasu.
Yeah, Musa Eliasu.
Okay, so Musa, your question.
Yeah, my question is, can we also call the cell body what do you call it, nucleus?
Good. So the nucleus, I'll come to that, but the nucleus is found within the cell body. So the cell body consists of a whole lot of structures. So
Okay,
I
okay.
remember back in school, back in SHS and JHS, we normally say that, oh, we have two types of what? Of cells, animal cell and what? And plant cell.
And a plant cell.
Yeah, so before I come to that, someone's hand is up. Asuli Wonu, please, your question, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, sir. Sir, please, I want to find out if there will be a situation where during an exam you will be asked to draw the structure of the neurons. Then
Not
we will label them.
necessarily. He can decide not to what, not he can decide to draw it and tell you to name the parts. Okay, he himself can decide to do that and tell you to name the parts or indicate what this type of structure means. But
Very well, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what the cell body that I was saying. You know, back in SHS and JHS, we normally say we have two types of cell: plant cell and animal cell. Then they will give us the various parts of it. All these parts you were exposed to, it is found within the cell body. All the parts of neurons you were exposed to, you can find them within the cell body. So the nucleus, the cytoplasm, and so on. You can find all of them within the cell body. So it means that in your slide, unfortunately he didn't indicate them in your slides, but it is something that he expects you to what? To know. So what's the function of what? Of the ribosome? What's the function of the mitochondria? What's the function of the nucleus? And so on. So please, let me throw this to the class. What's the function of the nucleus?
Okay, so the nucleus.
Okay, Mr. Musa, your hand is up.
The nucleus controls the cell activities.
Okay, so when you say it controls the cell activities, what does it really imply? Would you please bring it down to our level? I totally get you, but I want you to delve into it more.
It means that all the activities that goes around what do you call it, the cell is how should I say it, controlled by the nucleus.
Okay. So one thing you should know is that in most situations, we normally say the nucleus. Okay, Ralph, your hand is up.
Yes. I also know the nucleus contains the genetic coding of the.
Exactly. That's the key thing I wanted to raise. So we normally say the nucleus contains the DNA of the cell, the genetic composite of what? Of any living organism. You can find it within the nucleus. All right. Then we also have one known as the mitochondria. So I'll spell it. Give me some few moments. So the mitochondria. So please mute yourself. Now please mute yourself. Now. Okay, let me. Now, good. So the mitochondria. What's the function of the mitochondria? Any idea? Okay, so we normally say the mitochondria is the part. Okay, Musa.
The mitochondria serves as the power house of the cell.
Exactly, it is the powerhouse of the cell. what this implies is that it produces energy for the cell. Then the next one is ribosome. The ribosome, okay, Richard.
Okay, so I would say the mitochondria converts chemical energy from the food we eat into an energy from that the cell can use.
Exactly. Then what of the ribosome? The ribosome. Joyce, please mute yourself. Okay, so the ribosome synthesize protein. It synthesize. Let me spell. Mr. Infinix, please mute yourself. It synthesize protein. Okay. So please, any questions so far? Any questions so far? All right, so these are some of the things you need to know. We have the cell walls. You're supposed to know what it is all about. We also have lysosome. You should know the function of the lysosome. So you can search for these things in the internet. Okay, the lysosome you're supposed to know. They also have microtubules. So these are the two main things I would explain, then that's it. The lysosome normally produces something known as vesicles. It produces vesicles which contains neurotransmitters. I'll talk about it later. So one thing you should know is that the lysosome produces vesicles which contains neurotransmitters. We'll talk about neurotransmitters later, because it's a broad topic altogether. Then the microtubules, they are the ones that transport the vesicles. So these are some of the things you need to know, the functions. So all these things, you can find them in what? In the cell body. So please, any questions so far? Okay. So here comes the question. So what is the function of the cell body in itself? So overall, what do you think will be the function of the cell body or the soma? You know, the cell body is also known as soma, S-O-M-A. So what is the function of the cell body? Abigail and Huawei, please mute yourself. Unless maybe you want to answer a question.
From a layman's perspective, I think the cell body protects the cell.
Okay, so that means you are using the cell wall as what, or the cell membrane as the function. Overall, we normally say that the cell body integrates. When I say integrate, it means it combines. Okay, it integrates whatever information or input coming from other cells. Or they sometimes use the term it metabolize input from other cells. Okay, Richard, your hand is still up, or is based on what you answered previously? If that's so, then please.
You've said exactly what I wanted to say.
Okay, okay. So Huawei Y9 Prime, please, 2019, please mute yourself because I'm having some negative feedback here. All right, then the next one is dendrite. So what will be the function of the dendrite? We are still on the structure of the neuron. So what will be the function of the dendrite? So any thoughts on the dendrite? Okay, Richard.
Okay, so they are to receive signals from other neurons to process.
Exactly. So within the brain, there are a lot of what? Of neurons connected. So something like this. These are what? Several neurons. So this is one neuron, this is another neuron. So it means incoming neuron would what? Will take information to another neuron. And the other neuron will receive that sort of information based on what? On their dendrite. So the dendrite is the one that first what receives any information coming from other neurons. The dendrite is basically the first site that receives an information or input from other neuron. Okay, then afterwards, the dendrite will then forward it to the cell body for the cell body to what? To integrate the information. After the information has been integrated, then it will first move to the Axon Hillock, which is part of the axon. So this long thing that you see, let me annotate it. This long structure that you see they are all referred to as axon. So after the information has been integrated by the cell body, the information then moves along the axon until it gets to where? To the terminal button. And the reason as to why I included Axon Hillock is essential. Sorry. This rate, they are saying I have 10 minutes. So when it cuts again, please use the same link to join. This thing is what is referred to as Axon Hillock. We normally say that the Axon Hillock is the first site where action potential takes place. So please jot it somewhere. We'll talk more about action potential. Action potential. So we normally say that Axon Hillock is the first site in which action potential takes place. So it means that when it comes to the entire axon, it is the site where action potential, the axon necessarily what leads to action potential. That's what the axon is all about. But the first place where action potential begins, it starts from the Axon Hillock, which is this side. Then later, it moves to the other axon. So action potential starts from this side. Then later, it will move through these areas. That's what it simply means. So please, any questions so far? When it comes to action potential, we will talk more about it. So, okay, Daniel Addo, your hand is up.
Yes, sir. Sir, please, I wanted to know what the action potential is, but I think you said we will talk more, so I'm still waiting.
Yeah, so it's a broad topic altogether, so we'll delve more into it.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
All right, Richard, your hand is up.
Yeah, so if I well understood what you said, you mean the dendrites receive the information and then send it to the cell body and then move down to the hillocks before it transfers it into the axons.
Exactly. So first, the dendrite will be the one to receive the information. Then the information will be integrated within the cell body or the soma. Then afterwards, the soma will then move to the axon. But for it to move to the axon, it will first go to where? To the axon hillock, which is part of the axon.
Hillocks.
Then later on, it will move along the axon until it gets to the terminal button.
Wonderful.
All right, Zoom user, please, your hand is up. What's your name, Zoom user? Zoom user, please unmute yourself and speak. Your hand was up.
Sorry, I wanted to know the full definition of the dendrite, but you just said it.
Okay. So that's all when it comes to the structure of what? Of the axon. Oh, sorry, of the neuron. So you could see that when you check the two neurons here, there's a distinction. When you check the second axon that we're just doing, you can see nothing surrounds it if you've really studied it well. The first structure that we did, you can see that nothing of this sort, the blue thing that I'm doing, surrounds it. But check the first one, you can see this thing, there's something surrounding it. I hope all of you can observe this.
Yes.
Good. So it means when a neuron, the blue circles that I just drew, if nothing surrounds it, we normally call that sort of neuron a myelinated, sorry. If something surrounds the axon, like the blue ovals that I just indicated, then we call that sort of neuron a myelinated axon. Especially the axon, we call it a myelinated axon. Why? Because this structure is surrounded, and this structure, we call it myelin sheath. We call it myelin sheath. So it means the circles, you can see it is surrounding the axon. We call it myelin sheath. So that's why we call that structure what? Myelinated, because a myelin sheath is surrounding it. Please, I hope it's clear.
Yes, sir, very clear.
All right. So I'm continuing. You could see that when you observe the myelinated axon very well, especially the myelin sheath, you can see there are some gaps. There are some spaces around it. Let me draw it well so that you see. You can see there's a gap, and that gap, this drawing, you wouldn't see it well. Let me use another diagram so that you see the gap well, or the space well. Oh. Okay, I think this one is really small. That's the unfortunate thing. You can see.
So,
right.
so Kenneth, is that the synapse?
Come again.
Is that the synapse? The synapse?
Okay, I think
The tiny spaces.
okay, so I think this one is better. So this is our myelin sheath, and you can see that within the myelin sheath, we have a space here. I hope all of you can see the space.
Yes.
And that space is normally referred to as nose of Ranvier. So within a myelinated axon, we have a myelin sheath and nose of Ranvier. And a question could come. You remember I said in a typical axon, in a typical neuron, action potential takes place where? Within the axon, right? But sometimes your lecturer could frame this question. Action potential takes place within which part of a myelinated axon does action potential takes place? You can see the first diagram that I showed you, where there was you didn't find any myelin sheath. I just indicated that action potential normally takes place within an axon. But in situations whereby a myelin sheath is surrounding that part of that particular neuron or axon, in most situations, action potential takes place within the nose of Ranvier, the part which doesn't have any myelin sheath surrounding it. That's where action potential starts or takes place. Jemfua, your hand is up.
So, yeah, so the question again, so which part of, please repeat the question.
Okay. So a question could come like, which part of a myelinated axon does action potential takes place? So the answer is nose of Ranvier. All right. Then we normally say that within a myelinated axon, that's one key function. Within a myelinated axon, in most situations, it speeds up the reaction of action potential. So it means when the neuron has a myelinated axon, action potential is very fast. That's why